in Yaakov, in Brachot. In order to understand this part of the in Yaakov, we have to have two basic things. One is that we're talking about Hasidim, as I said last week. When we're talking about Hasidim, we're talking at a level of religiosity where they were going beyond the letter of the law, and they were very involved in Devekas Hashem and attached themselves to Hashem, more so than even a Talmid Chacham. A Talmid Chacham would be the one who is constantly learning. Now, we also learned from the Iyun Yaakov that in order to become a Chassid at this level, one had to undergo those years of being a Talmid Chacham. And only after that, only after climbing that ladder of learning and applying all those teachings to oneself, can one then go to the level of being a Chassid. That's number one. So that's the first part of the introduction. The second part of the introduction is that the Gemara leading into this, remember we're learning in Yaakov, which is only going through the Agadic sections, the sections that tell the stories, if you will. Fill in the examples, but not going through the arguments of the Gemara, for the most part. And the argument immediately preceding this next section is saying that if a king, while you're davening, if a king comes to you and gives greetings, then if it's a Jewish king, you don't answer him, because the Jewish king will understand that you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei, and you can't interrupt. On the other hand, if it's a non-Jewish king who doesn't understand that you're talking to God, if you will, he just sees you're moving your lips or whatever you're doing standing there. If he says hello, you are supposed to interrupt the Shemona Esrei and answer him, because it's a danger of life and death. It's a danger to your life. The king will, just as because he believes you're being impertinent to him, he will order your head to be severed. So in order to save one's life, one should answer the non-Jewish powerful figure here. Now, if it's a non-Jew that it's not powerful, you don't answer him. But if it's a non-Jewish person that could kill you, so rather than risk the penalty of death, you should answer the person. Say, hi, how are you? Interrupt you, Shemona Esrei. That's the two introductions you need. Okay, now we go into the Gemara. It says, Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis learned in a Braita, Maaseh b'chasid echad. There's an incident where you had this chassid who was davening. Again, he's learned all the Torah and so on and so forth. He's at this level where he's now a chassid. So what happens? It says, first of all, he's praying on the way. We also learned before that one should never pray on the way. Why shouldn't one pray on the way? Why shouldn't you pray in the middle of the thoroughfares?
You could get robbed.
You could get robbed, or somebody may speak to you. Somebody's going to disturb you. So it's best, and that's why practical halacha would say, if you're in the airports or the bus stations, or if you are, or the train stations, and you have to daven because time is of the essence at that point, you find yourself a little nook. You don't daven in the middle of the platform and expect that people are going to just say, "Oh, if a person's praying, I have to remove myself from him." Rather, you go to the side. And yet, we have this chassid. He realizes it's time to daven, and he's davening on the way. Fine. Here's an interesting thing. You have the English, so you won't see the difference. But in the Art Scroll, it says Bar Sa Echad. Here in the Girsa, in the text of the Ein Yaakov, it says Bahegyon, Ahigamon Echad. General. They're both officers. It's both terms for officers. But it's interesting, wherever he got his text, again, the Ein Yaakov, wherever the Ein Yaakov is getting his what we call the Girsa, the text, is not the same as where the Art Scroll or regular. What do you have in your Gemara? You have Sarah Sar Echad. So it's strange that the Bavli that we all have is saying Sar, but for some reason he's saying Higamon, and it's just interesting. They mean the same thing. It's an officer.
You think he got it from another textual source?
He must have. His Gemara was different.
Changed the word on his own.
No. His Gemara was different. That's all. So you have that sometimes where the Gemaras. Remember, the Gemara is not the Torah. We're going to have different gersot. We're going to have different texts every once in a while, for whatever reasons, and because it is an oral tradition. So when somebody's bringing it down, they could have brought down as Higamon, or they could have brought down as Sar. Maybe it was changed by the editors. The Goyish editors could have been changed by the other editors. I'm not sure who changed the word.
What year was yaakov?
I don't know. That I
5-6 centuries ago. I mean,
I'm not sure. I'm not even going to guess because I'm not sure. The best thing to do is to look it up on Google to find out. Well, that's going to say 1930.
What if he says in the introduction here?
But like I said, there were different texts. So I have Bahigamon and you have Barasar. Actually, you have again. It's you have 5 lines up. You have Basar Echad. So whatever. This guy comes. V'natan lo shalom, and he says to this chassid, shalom. He wants to give him a greeting. V'lo hechzer lo shalom, but he does not return the greeting. What happens? This Higamon, this Sar, himtin lo ad shesayim tefilato. He waits for the guy until he finishes Shemona Esrei. Very nice guy. Okay, you come to a guy who's in the middle of tefillah, and you say, Shalom Aleichem. You don't get a response. So what's the next thing you do? You don't take your sword out. You don't do anything. What you do is you wait there until he finishes. Very nice. Okay, good. By the way, if somebody is waiting for you to finish, what does that do to your concentration? If you know that they're waiting for you to finish.
You see them out of the side of your face.
So what's to happen? Your concentration is really blown at that point.
Like, what's this guy going to do to me?
What's he going to do to me? But besides that, without even that, besides that sort of trepidation, if somebody comes, you're davening by yourself in the shul, and suddenly one of your friends comes to you, he sees you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei, and he stands there. Okay. What's that doing to your concentration? It's blowing your concentration. My God, go away from me already. You see, I'm davening. You're going to wait, go to a corner and wait for me. If you want to wait, leave me alone. No, but this guy stands right there, looking at him, waiting for him to finish. Very nice. Okay. So what happens? The Achish is Shesayim Tefilato. After this chassid finished his prayers, Amar Lo. So this officer said to him, Reka, empty one. I think that's how they translate this. That's how it should be. Bore. Oh, they say bore, but really Reka is from rake. Empty one. Okay. Empty one?
Empty-headed fool.
Empty-headed fool. There you go. He insults his chassid. And he says, "V'alo katuv b'toratchem." Surely it's written in your Torah, "Rak hishamer lecha v'shmor nafshecha." Only beware for yourself and beware for your soul. By the way, this general or this officer, non-Jewish officer, knows Torah.
Is this like maybe, presumably, a Roman officer?
Yes, it's presumed to be a Roman officer. But it's how could he have learned Torah?
They want to use it against us, right?
Now, how could they have? No, he's not using it against him. He's asking him a question. But how do you know the Torah so well? This is a historical thing. Because the Septuagint, they already translated it into Greek many moons ago. So it's now people, whoever wanted to learn it, could go out and learn it, and they could see what it says. If they really wanted to go into the Hebrew, they would have that ability too. But we have this guy who clearly did his homework. And he says, wait a second, you're an idiot. I came to you, I said hello. You didn't answer me. And yet your Torah says, Rak hisham lecha, only be careful for yourself, shmor nafshecha, and guard your soul. In other words, sometimes you have to break the law in order to keep the law. That's number one. Uchtiv. And it's furthermore, it's written in the other part, Yishmartem ol nafshotechem. It's further written, but you shall greatly beware of your souls. And so he's telling him, hey, your Torah tells you, save your life, protect your life. You were in the middle of tefillah, so what? You should have answered me. I'm going to go through the whole story. You see how it works, and then we'll explore it. So, shalom. So when I said to you, shalom, why didn't you return the greeting to me? Because and he's further continues his question. If I would have cut your head off, remember I have the power to kill you. If I would have cut your head off, who could have claimed, who would demand your blood from my hand? How could he answer? How could he even ask that? If I would have killed you, who could have said anything? Besides, I'm the all powerful Roman. What does it say in Brachot? In Brachot, we learn a very interesting Mishnah. It says, the introduction is, Beit Hillel said, if you're when you're saying Shema, you can be going. You're on your donkey, you don't have to get off. You don't have to alight from your donkey. And I'm sorry. It says, this is a different Mishnah. It says, V'shachbacha u'bekumecha. When you lie down, when you rise up. So we learn, Beit Hillel says, it just when it says when you lie down, when you rise up saying Shema, it's just giving you the time frame. When I lie down, the time of lying down versus the time of rising up. Beit Shammai says, no. When it comes to the nighttime Shema, you have to lie down to say it. When it comes to the morning Shema, you have to get up to say it. That's what it means. Literally, that's what it says. So we rule like whom? Hillel. So normally, if it's nighttime and I'm on the road, I keep walking, keep going, go. It's only giving me time. According to Beit Shammai, though, no, I have to lie down. So this guy, I forget who it was. Remember who the rabbi was in Brachot? No? Oh, okay. I was testing your memory there, you guys. Hopefully you would remember more than me. Okay. Sorry?
Is it Balabasa?
Balabasar?
Balabasa, is that not right?
No. So it was, I forget the rabbi's name. It's in the fourth parak. So it's, but whatever. He says that it came that it was nighttime. He got off his donkey. He lay down. I think it was on his donkey. He lay down to say Shema, and lo and behold, some thieves came along, robbed him, and that's it. So he told everybody what happened, and the rabbi's response to him, the Chacham said, if they would have killed you, it would have been on your head, because we rule like Beit Hillel, and you had no right to endanger yourself. Okay, so if that's the case, I have no right to endanger myself. That's what he's referring to, even in Mishnayos. Okay? This guy is such a Talmud Chacham. He's saying you should have definitely answered me, because if I had a sword in my hand, I would have cut your head off. You yourself put yourself into danger, and your rabbis wouldn't protect you. They wouldn't have claimed anything. They would have said, you did it to yourself. That's his whole argument. He gives him two psukim and one mission to boot. Oh, the guy's a Talmud Chacham. Okay, here we go. So Amrlo, the chassid said to him, Hamtein li, wait for me, until I appease you with words. Allow me to defend myself. Okay, that's very interesting. Amrlo, so the chassid said, Ilu hayiti omed lifnei melech basar v'dam. If you were standing before a king of flesh and blood, uba chavercha, and your friend came, v'natan lecha shalom, and he would have said to you, shalom, hayita Machzir lo, would you have returned the greeting to him? Get the case? He said, you, mister, you're the general, you're a leader. Your king is talking to you. Or you're talking to your king, whichever the case is. And your friend comes along and says, hey, what's happening? And so, would you answer him? So, im hayita, machzir lo, maya osel lecha. If you would have answered him, what would they have done to you? Amalo. So the officer said, "Hayu chodchen et roshi b'sayif." They would have cut my head off with a sword. Amalo. So the chassid said to him, "V'alo devarim kol v'chomer." Certainly, doesn't stand to reason. Uma ata shayita omer lifnei melech basav. Just as you would stand before a king of flesh and blood, shayom kan. That is here today, umacha bekever, and the next day he's in the grave. Kach ani. So also I, shayiti omer lifnei melech malchei malachim, that I am standing before the King of Kings, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the Blessed One be He. Shehu chai v'kayam la'ad u'l'omei olamim, that He exists forever. Al achad kam v'kama. Is it not all the more so that I should not answer you? Miyad nidpayeso to'asar. Immediately the officer was appeased. Niftar to chassid lebeito, and the shalom, and he allowed the chassid to go to his house in peace. Okay. It's a great response. It's a wonderful thing, but really, how could he put himself into danger? Person is here. We're not allowed to, as I said, we're not allowed to put ourselves into danger. So the Iyun Yaakov says,
yeah, he got the general to acknowledge what he said, but it still could have gone the other way around.
Mm-hmm. That's the point. Whenever we don't know what's going to happen. So if you come to a point of danger and you have a halacha that we rule by would say that you have this leniency, take it. Don't put yourself into unnecessary danger. And by the way, I would go even further than that. I don't know if I can rule like this, but the thought would be, if there is a real heter out there, a real opinion, not just somebody said something, but if there's a foundation for an opinion that we normally wouldn't accept, but it's a point of danger, we may very well jump onto that and piggyback on that opinion. Because let's face it, none of the rabbis in the Talmud were apikorsim. None of them were false. They weren't trying to give leniencies. They were explaining the Torah as they understood it, or as it was given to them from their rebbeim, and so on and so forth. Their opinions are real, and that's why we save those opinions. In other words, if we wouldn't, how do you say this? If we were monolithic in thought, we wouldn't have the Gemara. The Gemara would be very small. We would never preserve those arguments. The fact of the matter that we preserve those arguments, as it says in the tractate, where is this? I think it's Ediot. I believe it's Ediot. It says, why do we maintain all these arguments? Because sometimes a greater court, is it Ediot? I forget what it is. But basically, we have a rule that a greater court, that when a court makes a ruling, another court cannot annul that ruling unless they're greater in number and learning. It's a basic rule we have. So everybody views that statement in the Gemara as we'll never be able to change anything, because we'll never have a greater court than the previous courts. It goes against our hashkafa, right? Our hashkafa is every single generation removed from Saneh, we become dumber. We're not as connected. So therefore, the guy who said it originally 2,000 years ago is smarter than me in Torah, so therefore I can't overrule him. Well, they have to continue on with that Mishnah, which says that the reason we keep both opinions is because when another court of greater number, and meaning there will be another court, we can have courts, and the Rav himself says that we have a greater court. Then, if I see that the minor opinion, the one they ruled against, is more applicable, then I can use that and apply it to this particular halacha. So all these minor opinions that we have in the Gemara, after a while, in certain conditions, they become the halacha. So what's going on here again is, it's true we don't always rule in a particular manner, but it doesn't mean we never rule in that manner. Okay, so let's give the chassid his due too. I don't want to throw him totally under the bus. The chassid had somebody to rely upon, but it wasn't what we normally would do. In other words, if God forbid somebody would come to me who could kill me and say, Shalom Aleichem, I'm told, by halacha, answer the question. You don't start saying, I'm too from. I'm too from says, I haven't talked to God. You don't do that. No, you answer the question, you go on with life. Okay, so now let's get back to this. It says, Maisa Bechasid. Okay, so hi Maisa Dami. This action, this story is comparable to what we learned above when we said because of the Chasidim that relied upon the miracle. What was going on? That last week we learned that if the person is davening 9 hours a day, so you miss that. Okay, you also catch that online.
No, I was here last week.
You were here. Oh, you just missed it. Okay, there you go. That's what it is. So he's davening 9 hours a day. So what does he do for his livelihood? So it says that his Torah will be protected and that his livelihood will be blessed. So the rabbi said, wait a second, how could he rely upon the miracle? And the answer was that was what Hashem was promising him. Fine. So coming off the coattails of that Gemara, we also have this one, that he's again relying upon a miracle. So how could he rely upon a miracle? You're not allowed to rely upon a miracle. It's against the halacha. Why is it against the halacha to rely upon a miracle, by the way?
Because you don't know when a miracle is going to happen.
If I believe in Hashem, I say, I'm total chassid, and Hashem is going to save me. Why can't I do that? What happens when I rely upon a miracle? Let's understand the mechanics of a miracle.
You're expecting the unexpected to occur.
I'm doing that, but what else am I doing? I'm putting myself on trial. Every time I do something that could potentially hurt me, the trial ensues. Do I deserve to be saved? Do I have enough merit to be saved? Now, personally, I don't want to go through that cheshbon. I don't want Hashem to go through, not me. I don't want Hashem to go through that cheshbon. I don't want Hashem to go through that accounting. Because who knows what I've done? Assuming I'm a chassid, I'm beyond letter of law. I'm doing everything right. If Moshe Rabbeinu could have been punished for hitting the rock instead of talking to the rock, how much more can I be punished for some insignificant thing? What I consider insignificant.
Seemingly.
I don't even know what I've done wrong. And I'm asking God to put me on trial and say, so you can make miracle here? You don't do that. It's crazy. It's insanity. You never put yourself into a situation like that. You always want to you want to ride. You want to follow normative halacha. You want to be protected by that. Because there, God can't, what's going to go? I followed what you wanted, God. I didn't do anything wrong. I followed even your leniencies that you gave us. And now I was put into a situation, I can't do anything about that. But don't judge me, judge the whole group. Don't look at me alone. I don't want to be looked at alone. It's not a good thing to be looked at alone. The old story is, if I have two lines, I'm at the airport, I have two lines coming back from I have to go through customs, that's what it is. I'm going through customs. Which line do I take? Do I take the long line or the short line?
You take the short line.
Wrong. Never take the short. Never ever take the short line. If you take the short line, then the guy has nothing to do. He's going to rip your suitcase apart. Looking and looking and looking until he finds something. If you have the guy in the long line, he's tired. Go, go, go. Get out of here. I don't want to see you anymore. The best thing to do is when you're passing the border, to pass at 3 a.m. I remember this when I was coming to a funeral. That's what it was. I had to go to a funeral, so I was conducting. And so I was going from Boston to Moncton, New Brunswick. I hit the border approximately at 3 in the morning. 3 or 4, well, 3 in the morning on the American side, 4 on the Canadian side. Okay, but it's literally at that time. And it said, nobody was in the booth. So it says, if you're passing, please pull over and come inside. Okay, look, I don't want to be arrested. So I pulled over, and the guys were drinking coffee, and they went like this. Go! Go! Leave me alone. That's what you want. You want to pass the border. Go! You don't want to be stopped. So if you can get in that long line, you go to the long line. Unlike if you go into the a supermarket, then you want the short line. And normally the short line becomes the long line because somebody messes up.
Fast, yeah.
Right. But that's what you're trying to do. You're not trying to rely upon the miracle. If I go through the short line, he's looking at everything. So I want to go with the group. I want to be carried on. But this guy didn't. So again, how can he rely upon it? So the Iyun Yaakov says, Kiv and Shara shehimtin lo ad shesiyam ek kol tfilato. Since he saw that this guy was willing to wait until he finished all of his tefillah, v'lo ratza lahazik lo miyad, and he didn't want to hurt him right away. In other words, if he would have said Shalom Aleichem, and the guy wouldn't have done it, takes out his sword, hold your horses. Aleichem Shalom. He would have answered him. But since he sees the guy says Shalom Aleichem, and the guy sits there, I'm going to wave to this guy. Oh, he knows something's wrong. He says, okay, this guy is willing to wait. So he said, and he says, Miyad yada. So immediately he knew he only wanted to hear to be appeased, lahashiv al she'elato, to be answered for his, to be responded to. Lachein himtilo ad she'yasayim. That's why he was waiting for him to finish all of his prayer. Afapi she'mitpalel b'derech, and now he says even more. Even though that a person is praying on the way, we also learn the Mishnah in the Gemara that if I'm praying, actually it's the Mishnah. If I'm praying on the way, you should say a short prayer. I'm praying on the way. I don't have concentration. There's not the time to start going into long hour Shmona Esrei. So I make a short prayer. Mikol makom chasidim elu, but however, these chasidim shayodim benafshim shehem chasidim gemorim, that they knew themselves that they were total chasidim. V'chol kavanatam shamayim, and all of their intent was for heaven. Al kein shomer mitzvah lo yada devar ra. Therefore, anybody who observes a commandment will know no bad. Mikol makom asu rak al yedei piyus. However, he only did because he saw that there was a chance for him to appease this guy. Shira shehu rak derech hatavaylo derech nisi, because he saw this is only a natural manner and not a manner of miracle. So it wouldn't take away from his merits. So what the Iyun Yaakov is saying is, this chassid was not an idiot. He saw the guy was willing to wait for him. If I'm willing to wait for you, that means that I want to hear your answer. Why you didn't answer back? Here's a person who has derech eretz, he has anava, he has humility, whatever the case is going to be. He saw that it was not an instantaneous death penalty. So if that's the case, then I have no right to interfere. I can't answer. That's all. I can't answer at that point. I'm not relying upon a miracle. I'm relying upon common sense here. So I don't have to interrupt you. And at the same time, what I find fascinating, and that's what makes him a chassid, is he continued davening. Again, when somebody's looking at you or waiting for you, you feel the pressure. That's why it's so interesting when a person is davening from the Amud, he's leading the congregation. That person who's leading the congregation, if you leave him alone by the side, he'll take 15 minutes. If you put him up here, he takes 5. How can it be such a difference? The answer is when you feel the eyes looking at you and saying no, 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 no. Well, they're not even saying a word, but you feel that pressure, then you start moving a little faster, and you don't have the same kavanah. So this guy was a chassid. Truly, he was in his own world, and I give him credit for that, because I know that even for me, and I mean, not that my kavanah is so great, but if I daven at shul, I have no pressure. I know the rabbis are going to daven longer than me, so I have no pressure. When I'm davening here, I'm one of the longer ones, so I have to. But everybody's looking till we see when I back up, and so they can go on. It is pressure. It's I mean, I still get my davening in, but it's more pressure than other places. So, like I said, this chassid, that's where he's coming from. And like I said, you have a lot of interesting stuff here that the chassid is asking him a lot. I mean, this officer is asking him a lot of things. He says, "Don't you have to guard yourself? Isn't this strange?" And that's what he's saying to him. I'll give you a teretz. I'll give my answer. The answer is that you wouldn't, if you would be talking to your king, you wouldn't interrupt. Otherwise, it'd be off with your head. So I can't interrupt. Oh my God, off with your head. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how did he figure out that the officer didn't want to kill him? I mean, wouldn't it be?
Because he was waiting.
Yeah. So, but to see that he was waiting, he'd have to already wait, continue davening for a while, right? So it's like after the fact. You know what I mean? Kind of.
Right.
So he couldn't have used that as a reason for not praying, right? Because.
I mean, for not answering.
Not answering, because he should have, had he not answered and been killed, it would have been too late.
No. In order for him if he would have seen what the yaakov is saying, is if this chassid would have seen that he was getting angry and took out started to take his sword out, he would have answered. He's not an idiot. Again, you don't die for. There's 3 things we have to die for, namely. Sexual sins. If I tell you, do this or I'll kill you, murder, do this, kill him or I'll kill you, or bowing down to an idol, do this or I'll kill you. Okay, for those are the things you have to die, but not for Shmona Esrei. You're not obligated at all to put your life in danger. So what happens is, if this chassid, what the yaakov is saying, if he would have seen that this guy was ready to take the sword out, he's going to answer right away. But when he saw that the guy wasn't, Shalom, he says, Shalom. And then he's waiting and he's looking. No. Why did you answer? And he said, okay, so this guy just wants to understand what's going on. So he finished davening. He knew he wasn't, he knew that what this guy wanted was an explanation. So for that, you can wait. That you can wait. That's what he was relying upon. Was he somewhat in danger? Possibly, but it doesn't seem that this guy wanted to kill him. He was more interested, after quoting, like I said, 2 psukim and a Mishnah, or the stories of the rabbis anyway, that he seemed to just want to know what was going on. Why, what's your heter, what's your leniency for putting yourself into danger? And he was saying, really, I'm really not putting myself into danger, because you weren't going to kill me.
Also, I have another question.
Go ahead.
So, how much rationalizing is there allowed to do during davening? I mean, the guy is a chassid, right? So he should have kavanah. So if he does, then he shouldn't have been doing all this rationalizing while he was davening.
No, so you saw right away. You see a sword coming at you.
No, but I'm saying, like, he's like, well, the guy is coming and he said hello to me, but he doesn't really, he doesn't really pose a danger to me. So I'm going to keep davening. This train of thought, it should have gone through the guy's head, because she should have been davening.
Great question. So what happens like this: when we learned before that if you're davening, okay, and some foreign thought comes into your head, you should stop.
Yeah.
Just immediately stop davening and gently push that thing out of the way.
Yeah.
So when this guy heard shalom, broke his concentration, and he sees what's going on, he had to immediately stop, assess the situation. So he's basically putting God on hold. Let me figure out what's going on here. I have to wake up to what's going on. He sees what's going on. He made a judgment. Went back to davening. Okay. I have to do that. Okay. When you're a kid, what happens is, for us, the biggest pain is either our telephone, when it goes ringing on us, when it's in our pocket. It's a beautiful thing about cell phones. If they buzz, they don't bother you as much, because nobody really cares about buzzing. You shouldn't anyway. But if it's ringing, you immediately have to put your hand in your pocket and turn it off. So what's going on? At that point, we're still davening. We don't stop davening. We put our hands in our pocket, we keep davening. When I'm talking, I don't stop talking, right? Talking to the audience, I don't stop talking. I turn it off. I put my hand and I turn it off. That shouldn't be done. If it's ringing and I have to turn off, I just immediately stop where I am, put my hand in my pocket, turn it off, and then come back and start where I left off. That's what should happen. When I'm speaking to the audience, I don't have to do that. I'm speaking to God, I should. Okay. It's just derech eretz to God. And also I have to, it's common courtesy. And I have to, because I want to have that concentration. The worst thing is what people call like this is ringing, right? In the middle of the Shona Esrei, they're talking to God. They pull it, then they go like this too. They even look, who's calling? Call already? And while there's mouth still going. Oh. Yeah. Watch people. It's the most amazing. I think I don't do that, but I'll turn it off, and sometimes I'll forget to stop, but because I'm just reaching out quick, because I'm embarrassed, things are going off. Really, that's why you have some shuls when you're walking in, they say, please put on buzz. What do they call it? Not buzz.
Vibrate.
Vibrate. Please put on vibrate. Okay, so that's what people do. But other people will go like this, or they'll start answering. You're speaking to God. What are you doing here? Would you do that in front of the audience too? The answer to that is no. That rude you wouldn't be. But that's what happens. So when something like that happens, you should stop. You should get rid of the pain in the neck that you have, and you go on. Another thing that happens when you have young kids, you're davening Shemona Esrei, and invariably your child comes over to you. Happens every time. And they're pulling on you, they're doing something. And so what do we normally do? We pick them up. Okay, we pick them up, put them on our shoulder, try to hug them, whatever. We're davening Shemona Esrei. We don't want to break. The answer is, we're doing wrong. We should break. In reality, we should break. Because we don't have concentration anymore. We've lost that. Now we're just trying to run through the words.
I've even heard Rabbi Cohn in Chicago say before, in front of the seaboard, on Shabbos, at some, I guess, before Muslim or something.
Right.
He says, men, if you are here and you have your young child with you, and the child's making noise, you are obligated to stop your davening, pick him up, take him out, and finish davening later.
Right. Correct. Because you're not supposed to pick your child up and hug him and do everything else. If you would we all do it. We all do it because what happens is we know our kid's going to cry. So even we'll pick him up first, l'chadchila, we'll pick him up and we'll daven him. That's also not right. I'm sorry. It's not right. I do. Not that I didn't do it. I admit my fault. But, because sometimes you feel, there's no way I can get out of this. But it's not what we're supposed to be doing. So you understand? That's what's really happening. This chassid, he broke it for a second, made an analysis of the situation, then went back. That's what we're supposed to do. So when something happens, when you're davening, this thing goes, this noose around the neck goes off, stop. Turn it off. Don't bother looking at it, just turn it off, and then go back to davening. But don't keep going. There's no kavanah. Kavanah. Who's calling? That's kavanah. Okay. Okay. One more short story, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Here we go. So this, by the way, for this one, you have to turn. Stan, you need to turn to. Oh no, stay on 33A1, but go down to the bottom. Tanur bottom. 33A1, go down to the bottom. the last 4 lines. So it says, Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis learned in a Braita, so there was a story that there was this arod, and this arod is the way they can, it's a crossbreed of a snake and a toad. I have no idea what it is. It's a dangerous creature. That's how our article wants to say it. It's a crossbreed. Fine. So they have this arod, v'haya mazik and a briot, and it was hurting people. Okay, fine. So what happens? They bo'u v'hodiu l'Rav Chanina ben Dosa. So they came and they informed Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Amar lehem, he said to them, Haruni et choro, show me his hole. Halchu, they went v'harohu choro, and they showed him his hole. Heniach akvo al pitcho, and so he put his heel on its opening. Yatsa, this arod came out, v'nashko, and bit him. Umate, and the arod died. That arod died. Natul al katefo, he put this arod on his shoulders, v'alich lebeit hamidrash, and he went to the base madrash. Amar lehem, he said to them, B'ni, children, my sons, ra'u, see she'ein arod meimit. The arod doesn't kill, elachet meimit. Sin is what kills. I'm sin-free. That's why he couldn't kill me. The way the rabbi, just very quickly, the rabbis say that when if an arod would kill you, the first one to get to water wins. So if the water, in other words, I have to wash it out. If the arod gets to the water first, the arod, then you die. If, on the other hand, you get to water first, the arod dies. So it says a miracle happened for Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, who was a tremendous chassid. And when he was bitten, that a well of water or a place for him to wash sprung up, and that's why he died. But so va'oto sha'a, in that time, Amru, they said, Oy lo la'adam shepaga bo arod. And they said, woe to a person, woe to the man who meets an arod. For oy lo la'arod shepaga bo Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, and woe to the arod that meets Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, because he's going to die. So it's not a good thing. Okay? It's an interesting thing. So now I want to go through this last piece, and the outscore brings it down. It's a very important piece for what we're talking about. It says Rabbi Chanina's pronouncement that it was not the arod that kills, but the sin, calls for some elaboration. It is indeed a cornerstone of our faith that a person's fate is in the hands of heaven. Therefore, if his time has not come, or he does not deserve to die due to his sins, he will not die. Nevertheless, he is warned. Not to knowingly place himself at risk. As the sages put it, a person should never stand in a dangerous place and say a miracle will be performed for me, because a miracle may not be performed for him, for the reason I said, that when we put ourselves in a place that a miracle is necessary, we go on trial and before God, and God decides whether or not we deserve to have this miracle. By the way, the greatest place for that is at the Reed Sea. When the Jews were standing at the Reed Sea, there was a very big argument going on. What merit do the Jewish people have that the angels are arguing with God? What merit do they have that you should open the Reed Sea for the Jews and yet close it on the Egyptians? What extra merit do they have? So the merits were Bris Milah, and they didn't forgive up their Hebrew names, and they didn't change their clothing, and so on and so forth. So they did the Paschal Lamb. That was really their merits. But otherwise, they're asking a very important question. You want to do a miracle that changes nature? Based upon what? So again, you never want to put yourself in that situation. The Ran elaborates on this and says, God created situations and conditions that pose a natural threat to a person's health and survival. This threat is significant because it is God's will that these conditions have the power to harm a person even apart from what would have otherwise been decreed for him. Thus, without God's special protection, a miracle, he may indeed come to harm in these situations. The chinuch expresses a similar idea, explaining the obligation to put up a fence around one's roof to prevent people from falling off and being killed. The reason, the chinuch explains, is that it is God's will that the world operate according to a natural order, including its dangers. Thus, the Torah commands a person to take proper precautions to avoid such situations. The fact that death has not been decreed for him under ordinary circumstances does not preclude his being killed in a dangerous situation. In the light of the above, Rabbi Chanina's actions in placing his heel over the arrow's hole seems difficult. How is it permitted of him to do so? Moreover, how could he feel confident that he would not come to harm? The answer apparently lies in another statement by the chinuch. After advancing the above-cited explanation, he adds, this applies to the great majority of people, even righteous ones, who are to some extent tainted by sin. However, there are certain people, and such as the great and holy patriarchs and many of their descendants, who attain such a level of perfect righteousness and closeness to Hashem, that they are no longer subject to the natural law. For these people, the natural law is suspended, and Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was such a person. And that's how they want to answer that. But really, we have to always remember that we should never put ourselves into danger, because we're not Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, we're not the rabbis of the Gemara. We're simple people, and we have plenty of sins that Hashem is going to start looking at and saying, not happening. In the normal situation, we get away with a lot of things. But if we start putting ourselves into that miracle situation, saying, Hashem will provide because I'm such a tzaddik, I'm a Baal Tshuva, whatever your ridiculous statement is, then you're looking for a headache. Do not ever do that. That's the point of these Gemaras. Okay, we'll stop here.